Good morning, guys. Jim Gann, Century 21, Judge Fight, official real estate company of the Dallas Cowboys. And I am sitting here this morning with Director of the Residential Appraisal District, Randy Armstrong. And he has graciously allowed me some time with him to answer some of the questions that I had posted on my page last week. And Randy, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate your time.
Glad to speak with you.
You guys are busy, crazy busy this time of year, huh?
We are indeed.
Especially with everything that's been going on, and just how has that been going? Just
Well, it's been very manageable. Of course, we've mailed out a record number of residential notices, well over 500,000. So that creates
here in Tarrant County.
Here in Tarrant County, that's created some opportunities.
Yes.
But, it's been very smooth, in my opinion. I mean, we've been able to field all the telephone calls. We've had folks walking into the service counter. We've given them directions, and we're handling a lot of things behind the scenes. But yeah, it's been a busy time of year, but it is every year.
Great,
This time of year.
very good. Well, I know with the market values and just the way the market has been for us, it's bound to affect our taxes, and obviously that's why I'm here to sit down with you and ask you a few questions about that. And some of the questions that you guys have asked me to cover as well. And like I said, I really appreciate the opportunity to sit down with you. Why don't we get straight into it? I guess the first thing to ask is there any difference between this year and last year about how we go about the protest?
The only difference, you'll feel and see a little bit of difference at the public service counter. We're requiring folks this year to file their protest first before we can, we're asking them to submit evidence. And I've basically got this form, it's just an evidence request form, basically helping them organize what we need from them to make an informed decision. But this form, fill it out. They have an opportunity to state their opinion of value, their account number, but it basically gives you things that they need to give us where we can make an informed decision. And on the back, there's a flow chart that's very specific in steps 1 all the way through the end. You know, we'll either submit them a signed or waiver for signature, agreeing to a value, or a hearing notice. But this is new this year. But
Okay.
The service counter basically is an opportunity for them to come in, and we'll give them instructions, show them what they need to do, how they need to do it, answer a few questions if we can. But we, as far as the process, it's no different. They file their protest in writing by their deadline like they've always done. I don't think that they're going to see a whole lot of difference as far as this year compared to the past.
Okay, very good. Now, the best way for someone to file their protest, what would you suggest in that respect?
Well, the best way is to utilize our website, www.tad.org. We have a portal, it's called the e-access portal, and they can go in there, and there's a PIN number provided on their notice, and it's in the upper right hand corner. It says your e-access PIN is, and there's a 8-digit PIN number that they can utilize to go into the e-access portal. That'll get them into their account. They can file a protest, they can review their comps, they can review their evidence that we're going to present in their hearing, and the most important thing is they can possibly negotiate a value that's acceptable to them and acceptable to the district based on sales data. But it's based on facts, and it's based on sales comps. No different than what you do as a realtor. If you go into a neighborhood and get a listing, you're going to look at what has been bought and sold, compare your property that you're going to sell to those, and set a list price based on those sales. It's no different than what TAD does. We look at sales.
Okay, in saying that, you base your comps on sales in the neighborhood. How many days do you go back? What type of data do you use?
Within the past year.
Do you use the entire year?
From January the 1st of 15, which is last year, our assessment date is January the 1st of 16. Well, everything has to come before that date, but we also utilize sales after January the 1st, and it's important to remember we can time adjust sales backwards or forwards. You know, if we have sales data as of January the 1st of this year. It's all based on 2015 data, but as sales continue to occur and I have limited sales in a particular neighborhood, I can always add those in to my file and use those to basically support our opinion of value.
Okay. Is there, when somebody's going about gathering this data, is that something that I could help them with, as far as, you know, giving them comps in the neighborhood? Would you guys accept that? I had a question actually from my father, and he was asking if he could hire an appraiser, a third-party appraiser, to come out and appraise his home. Now, there are some special circumstances about the home in the respect, and that's what I was kind of, can they do that?
Yeah, I would answer that this way. Yes, they could. It's going to cost them probably $450.
Correct.
You know, my advice is look at comps that the realtor might have, but remember, we are a member of MLS just like you are, and I have access to the same sales data you have. So really, they're not going to get any other data from you that they couldn't get from the district in the form of the sales data that we have listed in the e-access on their account. Now the difference is, because of proprietary agreements with MLS, I can't show them my entire sales file. I will show them adequate comps, anywhere from 3 to 6, if you will, to support a value or an opinion. But now, a lot of folks want to say, well, I want to see all the sales. I can't do that.
Okay.
MLS, our agreement with MLS does not allow that.
Now, you base your comps, comparable square footage, and year built, and all of that, correct?
Hopefully, in a perfect world, you always
Okay.
have good comps that are comparable size,
Right.
comparable age, and the same location or neighborhood. But
Yeah.
it's not a perfect world.
Of course. And guys, that's somewhere where I may be able to help you guys, in the respect that I can build you a search or get you some comps relating to your home as far as square footage goes, year built, number of bedrooms, and things of that nature, that I might be able to help you get some other comps in your neighborhood that will help out. So just let me know. Now, I guess this is kind of what we've been going over. The best way that they can prepare themselves for the protest. What would you suggest in that respect?
Well, the probably the most important information that I could use to answer that question is, you know, be factual, be organized. I hesitate to say this, but try to leave the emotion out of it.
Absolutely.
We understand that this is an emotional issue. It's your home.
Correct.
You know, but we are appraisers. We do not collect any monies here. We appraise property and we appraise at market value. Now, there's a range of value, no different than a realtor has, that a home is worth. And it's not science, but it's based on facts. It's based on recent sales in their neighborhood. But, you know, if they're coming in for a hearing, be organized, be factual. They're going to be on a real tight time schedule. Just have your facts together and make it about their property and not everybody else's. Focus on theirs.
And that's a good point. I run into that quite a bit. I think that the last time that we had talked, you had mentioned, as far as value goes, the kitchen and the bathrooms actually do raise the value of the home. They are considered upgrades, although carpet is a consumer choice. Did you share that with me?
No. Now, let's make sure we're clear on that. We don't know the bedroom or bathroom counts.
Okay.
We don't have access to the insides of homes.
Okay.
But we do know the square footage because we can measure the perimeter of the home.
Okay.
But, we have a standing policy. We don't go on the inside of homes. Too many things can happen, and most of them aren't good. So
Yeah.
we base our values on living area square footage. So to make sure there's no confusion, the number of bedrooms or bathrooms, while it may be important to you in the realtor in the real world, we understand that, but you know, I don't have access to that data, so I can't use it in my opinion. So
Okay. What about upgrades? Do those?
well, that comes into, you know, we understand that some homes are upgraded and some homes aren't, but, it's hard to quantify that. But a lot of the remodels that are performed, if they're permitted correctly, we'll know about when I say permitted, the building permits issued through the city. If we've got the remodel permit, I'll know that the home has been remodeled. But a lot of times, folks remodel without building permits. So therefore, TAD doesn't know if they've been renovated or not. But most of your homes that have sold, they've been cosmetically brought up to superior nature. We understand that.
Okay.
And we'll adjust accordingly. If again, that's back to that factual data. If your home is not typical of an area and it's really run down, well, pictures tell 1,000 words.
Good.
Repair bids from a third party
Okay.
person, or anything that would a repair bid from a third party, those go a long way in helping us make a decision.
Okay, great. Yeah, and that was that's a good point. Pictures, guys. You can take pictures of your home if you haven't been able to upgrade, whatever the case may be. Take pictures,
Especially
bring
of the
them down.
interior. I mean, if your home is, if you've gutted your kitchen and you don't have a kitchen on January the 1st, well, obviously that's affecting the value, but I can't see that without a photograph. But, a photograph with a statement that my kitchen was basically being remodeled, my bathroom was not usable, here's photos, here's my repair bids, send those in, attach it to the evidence request form that I was showing you a while ago.
Okay.
And we'll have an appraiser take a look at it.
Great. Foundation concerns.
Foundation reports from Old Shan or any of that's a third party, unbiased, factual report that we can, now, keep in mind that becomes a permanent part of the record. If you have foundation problems, we're going to put that on your record, but we're not going to remove it when you go to sell the house.
Right.
So that's something you might want to consider.
Absolutely. Now, how the appraiser would figure when it comes to raising your taxes, we kind of went over that already.
Yeah, basically, it's important to remember taxes. I know people associate taxes with TAD, but that's really not us. We value property. So the values that we assign are based on recent sales in the neighborhood. But, eventually it does equate to a higher tax bill, but, that's the ad valorem taxation system that the legislature set up, and it's based on value. The more you own, the more you pay. That's fair, but fair is a relative term. So,
Absolutely, certainly.
Anyway.
Okay. I do have, Shelley asked a question. She has a hearing coming up, and I believe with the advisory board.
Yeah.
And
So she has a scheduled ARB hearing with the Tarrant Appraisal Review Board.
Correct.
Okay.
And she has planned on going out of town for quite some time, and it just happens to be on that same day. What can anybody do? What can she do about that? What is your suggestion on
Well,
that?
if she has a scheduled hearing, she has, as a homeowner, she has the option of, first of all, if she can't be here, she can hire someone to represent her. She can do it by affidavit, which is basically submitting evidence, sworn testimony in writing before the hearing, or she can call and reschedule. They'll reschedule one time.
Okay.
And the ARB office, they have a staff that we try to work with homeowners because we understand their conflicts, but they not the district, they will work with them as far as rescheduling hearings, something that will be workable for both sides. I mean, they allow walk-ins. If you can't be here day after tomorrow, could you be here today?
Okay.
And then they'll if they have an opening, they'll run you right in there for a hearing. But that's not a problem.
Okay.
They work with homeowners all the time.
Very good. Good to know. Thank you. All right. The senior homestead exemptions, and when it comes to the freeze, exactly what is the criteria for that?
Well, the over 65, it's real simple. If you're above the age of 65, you have to fill out an application for the over 65 exemption. Now, what that exemption does, and I think this is where the confusion comes, everyone in Tarrant County, all the jurisdictions, I believe there's 74 of them, they offer a over 65 exemption, with the exception of the Tarrant County Hospital District. So when you say your taxes are frozen, They are, with the exception of the hospital district. Everybody's in the hospital district.
Okay.
But currently, the hospital district doesn't offer that. But that is one of the benefits of for elderly folks, is when they turn 65. Taxes and value, they're two different things. Their taxes are frozen on the level of the year that they qualified as far as the value. But that market value is going to continue to increase just like the market, or decrease just like the market. But their tax ceiling, or freeze, if you will, won't change unless they add on to the property. Let's just say if they qualified for an over 65 exemption, and then later, 5 years down the road, they added a pool. Well, that breaks that freeze and refreezes it at current levels.
Okay.
So it's a freeze, but once you turn 65 and you qualify for the exemption, you don't want to add on to your house.
Okay.
Because that reestablishes a new freeze amount at current levels.
At the current levels.
Current levels.
Okay, very good.
And then, of course, you asked about the homestead exemption. Basically, all that is a deduction for homeowners. You have to own and occupy the home. It's a set amount that each entity, each city, each school district, and the county determines that they will give you a reduction off the appraised value. And it's quantified the same for everybody. And it basically reduces your bill, but it's because the appraised value is reduced for that homestead exemption.
Okay.
And again, both the over 65 and the homestead require an application, and you have to own and occupy the homes.
Okay, great. Good to know. And speaking of that, each county similar as far as the same criteria, rules, and things, or do they vary quite a bit?
No, the property tax code, which is this book, this is it's called the Texas Property Tax Code. It's online on the Texas Comptroller's website.
Okay.
Of course, this is a hard copy of it, but the tax code is written by your legislators, they represent the entire state. But the tax code, tax laws require the same to all 254 Texas counties. Now, there are different sizes. Obviously, we're one of the larger metro districts. You get out into West Texas, you've got some very small as far as parcel count wise, but they're susceptible to the same tax laws that we are.
Okay.
So now you've got different cultures, but when you peel all the layers back, it's the same tax code that everyone is governed by in the state of Texas.
Okay, very good. Now, the taxes, everybody knows, I think, or has some understanding of, that our taxes can't raise, or we can't pay more than 10% of what?
Okay. So you're talking about the 10% annual limit to the appraised value.
Okay.
So separate taxes from appraised value.
Okay.
So the appraised value this year, let's just say in 2015 is this year, it's actually last year, but last year your appraised value was at $100,000. This year in 2016, we raised the market value based on sales to $130,000.
Okay.
But because of the 10% limit, it's 100,000 times 10%, which would be 110. The market value is at 130, but the appraised value stays at 110.
And that's what you pay taxes on?
And that's what the taxable value is, the appraised value,
Okay.
and what the tax bill. Now, the caveat there, you have to have the property homesteaded.
Okay.
And if it's your homestead, and this is kind of hard to explain, but it's very simple when you peel it back and look at all the different layers, but it's effective the year following the year that you qualify for an exemption.
Okay.
So new homeowners wouldn't be eligible for a 10% cap because
But for the following year.
they didn't have a homestead exemption the prior year. So
Okay.
that's the important thing. And then one other thing that the Star Telegram articles and the press we've been getting hasn't been quantifying, it's 10% plus the value of any new improvements. So if it was 100 in 2015, 100,000 in 2015, the 10% limit is 110, but let's just say that they added a $15,000 pool. So it's 100,000 times 1.10, which is 110, plus the $15,000 pool would be a total of $125,000, which is still less than the 130 market value. But it's 10% plus any new improvements from the previous year.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I was asking you yesterday about having a homestead and a freeze, and I know that you can't answer that question completely, but I wanted you to kind of define it a little bit, in the respect that, say I have a freeze on my taxes, I move to another county, and they don't honor that freeze, and then I move back to Tarrant County, and I'm trying to reenact that, and you had called that what type of?
Well, basically, this is, it's being a transfer certificate.
Okay.
But basically, I believe the property that you were discussing with me, the homeowner lived in Tarrant County,
Mm-hmm.
and they moved from Tarrant County to McLennan County, which is Waco, and she transferred her, or ported her exemption amount from Tarrant County to McLennan County. Okay, now, as I understand what you told me, she's moved back to Tarrant County. But
Correct.
the issue is that the house that she qualified in Tarrant County, and when she moved to Waco, she no longer owns. She sold that property. And then that was ported to Waco, and in order for her to port that back from Waco or McLennan County, all we need from her, and she has to request it from McLennan County, is that transfer certificate transferring that percentage out of McLennan County back to the new house that she
Okay.
has in Tarrant County. So that was a little bit of a confusion. Now, if it were the same home, but it's not. She sold the house that she originally qualified the transfer amount on. She no longer owns it, so it's no longer in play. But she did qualify for an exemption in McLennan County, and all it requires for her to transfer that back to here is we have to have a transfer certificate issued by McLennan County, requested by the property owners.
Okay, very good.
It's a good deal for seniors, you know, but there's just some paperwork that's required, and I think all that the confusion that was caused on the issue that you and I was the fact that the property that she originally qualified for, she no longer owns, so that wouldn't be in play. But that was transferred to McLennan County. Now she's wanting to transfer it back to Tarrant County to another home, so it requires a certificate from them.
Okay.
Does that make
Very
sense?
good. Yes, sir. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you very much. The last question, was it possible this year for the 10% of the previous year's market value that they get a notice where they were having to pay more? And the only reason I ask is, I think that's created some confusion possibly. I think you probably hope so, I would imagine, in the respect that I have heard of people saying, man, my property taxes doubled. And is that market value, or was there an issue with people getting notices where they actually had to pay more than 10% of the value? And if that's the case, what can they do about that?
Well, again, you have to separate value from taxes, okay? If we, TAD, doubled their value, is that what you're saying?
No, I think what I'm hearing from some of the folks is that I'm having to pay more than I had to pay last year, but it doubled. And are they confused with what they're looking at on this statement? Because I know that this statement, I did explain it to somebody as well, and they said, okay. After you explained it to me, I was able to look at it and be able to explain it to somebody else. But they are saying that their taxes actually doubled.
Now you're talking, part of this notice, the purpose of this is a value notice. We give you the value, but we're required by the tax code to list the estimated tax amounts. Now, what I hear you saying, I think, is that their estimated tax amount doubled. It could be a few things. Number one, did they lose their exemptions?
Okay.
If they lost their exemption, they lost their 10% limit. And to cure that, you would simply reapply for your exemption to get it reinstated, and that might keep their cap into play for another year.
Okay.
But if the market value of the property went from 100,000 and recent sales in this particular neighborhood said the property is now worth 200,000, so TAD in effect did double their value, which will in effect double their tax bill, yes, that could happen. And
Okay.
they can protest the value. They can't protest the taxes, but they can protest the increase in value that we've notified them with. But again, that's back to my original statement. What's the home worth? Bring us some factual sales data, something to quantify their opinion of value, and be well organized, present it, and then if it's worth less, it will be corrected by either a staff member or by the review board in a formal hearing.
Okay, so it is possible, say that somebody was paying $250 a year for their taxes last year, that they're now paying $500 a year
Yes,
for their,
that's possible, yes.
okay,
But again, anything that the appraisal district does as far as value, it's all based on facts. And our performance is monitored very closely by the Texas Comptroller's Office, and we're required to value all property according to market value based on recent market sales.
okay,
And that's it, I mean, in a nutshell. TAD, we don't dictate market value. We follow the trend that's being established by the buyer and the seller in these neighborhoods.
okay,
That's the way it's done.
great. Well.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much.
We're always glad to help educate our public, and thank you for taking the time to come down and visit with us.
Thank you for making the time to
Okay.
allow me to visit with you. Guys, listen, that's going to be it for today. If you need any help coming up with some comps, market value, let me know. I'll be glad to put something together for you. And if you have any questions, comments, please leave them below. Please share the video if you think this is helpful. This is Jim Gann, Century 21, Judge Fight, official real estate company of the Dallas Cowboys. And remember, Jimbo knows real estate.